Okay, Hapkido white belts, this is your first video on our COVID-19 online class adjustments. So one of the things, I know we are getting ready to start prepping for some additional yellow belt tests. I know some of you are really close, so the timing of all this kind of really sucks from that regard, as if there's ever a good time for this, but in particular, I know there was people that were getting pretty close. So we're going to take an inventory of just a lot of our basic strikes, blocks, and kicks, and then start adding some combinations together this week that'll help us in our punch defenses and situationals, coming out fighting and doing a better job with that. But first things first, kind of going down the belt sheet, make sure there are no gaps, make sure there's no confusion about anything, so that once again, when we get back into class, we hit the ground running and hopefully have that test sooner than later. So we're going to start with our basic strikes. Remember the big points. Feet shoulder width apart, no tight roping. I should see space between your feet. Hands up and out, hips turn, heel flares, lead hand retracts. All three of those parts have to be there. This is just raising my foot. This is leaning with my shoulders. This is not my hand turning. It is just rotating with the rest of my body in space. All three parts have to be there on all of our basic strikes. So for starters, make sure that we have, again, just those three parts, kind of go nice and easy, check your shape, make sure your weight is 50-50, make sure my chin is down, elbows are relaxed, sometimes we get this bow and arrow action going, okay, so if you can get it, if you get a chance to maybe look in front of a mirror or something, just check your form. I know obviously we have a lot more here, but check your form, make sure all those little things are still there, okay? Then basically we have our list of strikes that utilize that same basic mechanics. Right? The first one is our basic reverse punch, hip turns, heel flares. Belt should be flapping in the wind once we do it. The next one's our palm heel strike, which is kind of our default one for self-defense, because less chance of breaking our hand. Okay? We have our tiger claw, where I'm reaching out and adding a flick to the eyes. Okay? So we're coming out this way. Now, that gets us into those legal, social, and psychological issues that we talk about in the self-defense realm. There's actually other videos on our YouTube channel that goes into that and everything already. So now we can draw the distinction between, there's a difference between just getting a little flick to get a reaction, to get a flinch, and then set up more other shots or be able to escape or whatever. There's a little difference between that and taking your thumbs and, and going inside and digging something out. But you got fingernails, how much is too much? Obviously, when we start messing with the eyes, we're kind of getting into that gray area a little bit. Okay, so nevertheless, we have tiger claw. So one we don't practice in class, it's on the sheet. Make sure you do some of those, okay? I am trying to flick them in the eyes. I am not trying to cut them in half. So watch the loop. On all of our strikes, another common tendency is to let this hand drop back down on the way back. I want that to fire straight out and come straight back, right? So otherwise, then I give them a line to come over the top to counterpunch. The next one we have is tiger mouth. So I'm leading with this part, as the name implies, right? It's making that mouth shape, right? So I'm coming up and out, so I'm aiming for the throat here. It's not with this part where I'm hitting with the palm, so I'm very particular. I'm leading with this part into the throat. So if you take your finger and just flick yourself in there, that typically doesn't feel very pleasant. So those legal, social, and psychological issues that we talked about before. Okay? So the last one we have is our knife hand strike. So it is our chop comes up and out. The mechanics are still the same. Hips turn, heel flares, lead hand retracts back to my jaw as I'm hitting with the blade of the hand. So I'm still using the same punching action, and this punches and kind of shears out. I am not trying to cut their head off. It does not come around. As I said, it punches out. And everybody's been in class already enough to know that it does not take much to knock someone loopy by hitting them in the side of the neck. We use that in various places all the time. So our basic punching action is that right there. Okay? So quick inventory. Reverse punch, palm heel, tiger claw, tiger mouth, knife hand strike. Press pause and do like 10 of those each hand, each person, okay? All right, so now that you're back, we're gonna do our moving punch. So it could be any of these attachments, but basically we're going to step into our punch. It's not a huge step, so common mistakes, again, I want you to check yourself as best you can at home, right, is make sure that you are, the best analogy I can give you is as if you were on railroad tracks, your feet are on railroad tracks, one on each rail. So both feet step straight forward and straight back. It's not a big lunging step into a long stance like Taekwondo or other martial arts. When I get done, I should be in that nice shoulder width stance on the other side, weights 50-50, everything that we already do, okay? So, excuse me. So I'm on those railroad tracks. So the other common mistake that people do on this one is that whole tight roping issue rears its ugly head in this as well, right? On this one, I call it the hokey pokey, because I get this. We put our right foot in, we put our right foot out, we put our right foot in. I guess you punch them all about, I'm not sure. But basically, right, there is no way I can have power going forward if my hips and shoulders are turning to the side. I'm literally punching behind me or to the side of me. Okay, so, as I said, it's maybe hard to see the lines on the floor, but I'm gonna step straight forward and straight back and straddle that line. Make sure a good clean punch. Everything else is the same. My hips are turning, this hand is still working. It just doesn't stay here as I punch. It's helping me turn my shoulders into the punch. I just don't over-rotate and look away, okay? So that's our basic palm heel. Not that you do it all that often, but we can do a moving tiger claw, any attachment on that moving punch mechanic, okay? Our basic blocks, right? So I tell everyone all the time, the part on the test that people are going to mix up or mess up the most is the basic blocks. So we want to really make sure that we keep the terminology down and clean and straight and make sure we do a good job on that, okay? My front hand does the block, my front foot does the movement for the first one, inside touch block. So you gotta imagine someone is stepping in with that straight punch right from my nose. I'm simply going to push that punch across as I move my face. I don't know any martial art that does not subscribe to the theory that I'm only going to block to the perimeter of my own body. Because after it goes past there, it's not going to hit me anyway. Okay? So I'm going to simply, I don't want to over-rotate or push this too far past. Right? Hands are up where they're supposed to be, and it's just a little step out with the front foot to get my face out of the way as I move that block. Okay? The next one is the haymaker. So if you imagine the swing is coming around at me this way, now I do the royal wave. This is your chance to be a Hapkido princess and do your royal wave. Now if it's coming that way, now I'm going to move my back foot out away so I create a little space between that block and my face. So now my back foot steps this time as I still use my front hand. If I use my front foot, then I'm doing this, and that creates a whole nother set of problems. Okay, so my back foot steps out. Those are my middle blocks. I can do the same thing on the low line. I have low inside and low outside. Okay? Just like I had middle inside and middle outside. Okay? Middle inside, low inside. Low outside, sorry, that's middle outside, low outside. So either something is coming straight in or something is coming around. It doesn't matter which level, I more or less do the same thing, okay? And of course, other side, inside, low inside, outside, low outside, okay? Press pause, make sure we get those straight. Okay, next is our high block. So we've looked at middles and low lines. Now let's talk about up here for a second. Our high block, I'm simply going to make sure my bicep is by my ear so I don't lose coverage here. I don't want my arm too close so I hit myself. That doesn't help very much. I want to make sure I punch this out. My other hand is going to come up and also it should be there anyway, right? So I'm here, my chin is down. So it's really, this is a good generic cover that we use later on in the ranks. It's hard to get hit. There's like that little knee space right there, but it's hard to get hit clean kind of behind this cover. My footwork is I'm just going to take a little bit of a cheat step forward so I can kind of get into that movement. So if by definition of having to block something went wrong, okay, so it usually necessitates more than just a block. So making sure that we're stepping as we block is kind of just also helping us jumpstart the body, break that stasis, go, block, run, punch, do something. Right? So we really want to make sure that you're moving your feet anytime that requires you to block for the most part. So I'm going to take a step into my high block, and then last thing, I don't want to see this flip up over our shoulders this way, and here, but I make sure I punch out and have some attitude. Now if I go too far, then I start to lose coverage. So again, try to find a mirror, check and make sure you kind of find that sweet spot. Okay? The last one on our blocking section is our 45-degree angle touch block, which we use in our inside pivot and our body movement drill. Right? But understand this is a very important point. We use our blocks in the body movement drill, but that doesn't mean that I have to do the body movement drill every time I do the blocks. So everybody wants, for example, to do that low inside touch block, right? So it's this way. Everybody wants to do it with the back pivot because we do that when we do our back pivot, but as I said, we don't always have to do the footwork with the block. So our 45-degree angle touch block, my front foot steps, my left hand does the slick the hair back past my ear, right? So the punch is coming in, it's basically like a slip. My front foot moves my face off angle. This is to make sure I guide it past, and then I'm covered if the other hand is coming from the other side, okay? So I step off angle and I cover. I don't want to see you guys looking this way. Bad guy is still over there. Other hands up just for good habit, even though technically they'd be on the other side, okay? And then we switch feet, we do the other side. Left foot, right hand in my case here. My left foot steps, my right hand does the block as I step off angle, okay? Don't step up, so the common mistake is that people step up this way and they, remember the bad guys here, I just took my gun turret off of them. I can't hit them because I took myself out of position to easily do that. Okay, so front foot steps, backhand does the block. 45-degree angle touch block. Okay? Once again, inside, low and middle, outside, low and middle, high block, 45-degree angle touch block. Those are all your blocks on your yellow belt test. Press pause, make sure you got to clear anything up that you haven't already. Okay, next section is our kicks. So before we do that, I'm going to give you some extra homework to help you clean up your kicks and also a bit of an extra workout. Okay, so this is kind of not just straight the rank requirements, it mostly is, but here's your bonus. We do this in Taekwondo. We've done it a little bit in your class, but not as much. Okay, so my friend Bob is going to help use me. I'm going to help me for balance. Use a corner of a chair or table or something like that. Just something that you can just kind of use to support yourself, but you don't get to lay on them. Okay, you just get to use it for a little bit of balance. I'm going to bring my knee up, and my knee is going to stay in that position. I'm going to work on my front kick chamber. So my knee comes up, and from here, I kick, I rechamber, I kick, I rechamber. My knee does not move. I don't drop my leg and swing. This is using momentum, and momentum is not a muscle. I bring my leg up, this doesn't move, I only do the extension from there, okay? And so I want you to do 10 times. Okay? On the last one, I want you to try and hold it out as long as you can for a count of 10. Nice slow count of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay? So do that with front kick on both sides. Okay. Now that you've done that, roundhouse kick is very similar. I'm going to bring my leg up in good, means I got to pivot my base foot, okay, ideally 135. Now on this one, it's going to be a little harder to tell without a mirror or someone to keep you honest. but do your best to keep a good line. My hip, my shoulder, my knee are in a straight line. We don't want to do this kind of V thing this way, okay? Straight line here. From here, same concept. 10 of them, knee moves, leg does not. Okay? I said that really kind of wrong, but we're just gonna keep rolling. This is a quality video production. I'm sorry. So let me try it again, okay? You're getting a real in-class feel when I, mess up, okay? So knee's gonna point. I'm gonna come out with my shin. My foreleg moves, my upper leg does not. Okay? And then once again, after 10 of these, hold 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Do both sides, roundhouse kick. Press pause, do it. Don't cheat. Okay, last one in the series is side kick. So same idea for the side kick, but this time I've got to bring my knee up and across. I finish turning my bottom foot 180 degrees, so my leg is straight here. So you should be able to see the bottom of my foot. It's like I stepped in gum, and I'm showing it to you. Okay? So from here, my leg drives out, so I end up in that good clean line. Don't drop my shoulder down this way so I can't see where I'm kicking. Right? I keep this nice and straight line here, in and out. If you're doing this with a live partner, if you're able to con someone into standing there for you, okay, make sure that when you do this, you don't bring your knee into them every time, but you should be kind of trying because that's the point of the chamber, right? So from here, and this knee comes in, and then extends out, and then in, and then out. So now my knee is moving, but again, finish that good clean line as we do it. But what I don't want to see is this knee drop, and I swing the leg up this way. The knee does move, but stays high. It could be like the half wall here at the school, could be under my knee, and I'd be going over the top of it, okay? So that is trick number 1 to work on your side kicks. Once again, 10 each leg, hold for a count of 10 on the last one. That'll be a pretty good extra workout to clean up your chambers for your kicks. Okay, after you've done all those exercises for just chambers, quick inventory now, okay? Stretch kick, and I probably should have had you do this first. Hopefully you kind of stretched out before you did the first exercise, but looking at the yellow belt sheet, going down the list, stretch kick, straight up and down, we all know that one. Outside, inside crescent kick, knee kick. We don't do in class all that often, but it's exactly what it sounds. I reach up, I grab, I pull in as I bring the knee up. Most people get an emotional satisfaction out of hearing something bounce off their knee. So if you want to go ahead and smack your knee, most people do. Okay? Front kick, keep my hands up, bend my knees. Now the other thing is making sure good foot position. I can either point my toes and come up underneath the groin, but Bob has abs of steel, so if I try to kick him like this, I'm gonna break my toes. So make sure I bend my toes back and hit with the ball of the foot. Make sure you do both types of those, okay? Roundhouse kick, just like in practice, I come around. I wanna see the counterbalance with the hand to help keep that shoulder back. Try to finish a good clean line. Make sure my bottom foot pivots at least 90, ideally 135, but I'll settle for 90 as that leg comes over the tabletop. Okay? So a lot of people bring their knee forward, and I get this, but I don't have a lot of that baseball bat circular momentum. So if I were kicking Bob, basically I came up and I did that. That's not the same of swinging my leg around in that baseball bat. Make sure you have that baseball bat part, okay? All right, back kick. I look over my shoulder. I bring my knee up and I stomp down and back. So I'm hitting with the heel, like I'm walking on my heels. I have that foot dorsiflexed. So pay attention to the foot position. Don't want to see our toes reaching like this. Make sure we're hitting with the heel back this way, okay? And then lastly, that becomes our side kick. knee comes up, I turn to the same chamber you just worked on, I drive out, I come back in, and I set it back down, okay? 5 parts to the kick. 1 up, 2 turn, my bottom heel pivoted as well, 3 out, 4 in, and 5 back down. Remember, if I get into a hurry, okay, and I leave part of my foot behind, that's not going to shoot straight out. If my midline is on a line, I have to bring everything on this side of the body across that midline, not leave like my foot or anything else behind. Now I can turn and drive straight ahead. Take your time, hit your marks. Okay? The last one is half moon. And remember, this is the hybrid between the front kick and the roundhouse. And it starts like a front kick, but ends more like a roundhouse, so it finishes turning over. Okay? So the key is to make sure it comes straight up as opposed to turning over this way. So the easiest way to tell you to do it is if I were up against the wall, I can do my half moon. Because just like a front kick, it comes up and then it turns over. If I were to try to do a roundhouse kick that way, I shouldn't even get started because the trajectory of the knee would require this to come out and around as opposed to coming up and then flipping over. Now make sure you still kind of finish more like a roundhouse. So my toes are sticking straight up. It wasn't a half moon kick, it was just a front kick. Okay? It has to finish with the top of my foot or my toes mostly pointing that way. Okay? Now the difference between the roundhouse and the half moon is a question of degree. I don't have the same circular momentum because I'm not bringing that leg around, so I don't have that baseball bat power. But the trade-off is instead of taking the circuitous route, this is coming straight up. So there's a trade-off for speed versus power. It's a different tool. Sometimes I want to flip this up into the groin. Sometimes I'm trying to break their femur and really come around. So again, it's just a different tool. But make sure you can show me the difference between the roundhouse and the side kick. Those two should be completely different. Roundhouse, circular, snapping, top of the foot. Side kick, linear, thrusting, heel of the foot. And you can also show me the difference between the half moon and the roundhouse. Okay, so those are all your kicks, blocks, and strikes with a little bit of bonus material in there. Make sure to rep them all out. And then next class, we'll cover body movement drills, some other things. But I'm also going to start working on some basic combinations, how you put these things together to, as I said, have an economy motion, good power, good mechanics, but maybe make them into a little more effective combinations, okay? But this should keep you busy for a while, and watch for the next one.